if you weren't so damned clumsy.
Abigail, do you trust me? There's a single dose of laudanum by the bed. Take it. It will help with the pain.
Is there a doctor in this town?
Oh, actually, I am a doctor, but...
Even 5 minutes of your time, please.
Ma'am, you can't go in there. This is a crime scene.
Abigail!
I warned you, ma'am. You need to answer some questions.
I left her with a single vial of laudanum. When I went to get the tickets, that's not enough to cause harm.
And you're certain it was the correct dosage?
Yes, of course.
How can you be sure?
Well,
In the absence of any other explanation, is it not most likely that Abigail Prescott died because you provided her with the wrong bottle of laudanum?
Yes, it's possible.
7, 9, no 8. There's a page missing.
This is my interview with the hotel clerk. The last time she saw Mrs. Prescott is when she made a telephone call in the middle of the night.
She made a telephone call?
Is that important?
Yes.
The jury has found you guilty of manslaughter in the death of Abigail Prescott.
What?
Good morning, Mr. Murdoch.
Good morning, Bethany. Oh, she has been quite the handful this morning.
Well, usually when the little one is fussy like this, Dr. Ogden would sing her a lullaby. Sleep, my baby, on my bosom, warm and cozy will it prove. Round the mother's arms are folding, in her heart a mother's love. Sleep, my baby.
We need something substantial to justify filing this appeal.
Yes, but what about that call? If the alderman knew where we were, he could have killed her.
The hotel owner didn't hear the telephone conversation that Abigail was having, and the switchboard operator doesn't remember who she put the call through to.
It's a dead end. There's no way to prove who she called.
Why did she make that call? Do you think she could have been having second thoughts about leaving her husband? I should never have encouraged her.
There's no way to know what was in her mind, but you know what was in your heart.
You were simply trying to help a woman in need, Julia.
Yes, and now that woman is dead.
Surely the fact that someone removed a page from the police report should warrant an appeal, shouldn't it?
The judge clearly didn't think so.
Then we'll speak to a different judge, a higher court.
I'm sorry, but it's not enough. A page could go missing for any number of reasons. Any judge will consider it no more than an error.
How are you faring, sir?
I feel hopeless, George. I wish there was something I could do.
What did Effie have to say?
She said we could appeal, but our chances are slim at best. We've lost in the eyes of the court.
I can't believe it. Our Dr. Ogden in such a dire circumstance.
They've sentenced her to 3 years.
For something she didn't do. And we'll do everything we can to prove that, sir. To prove it to the court.
Of course, George, but it may not be enough. Julia's going to miss raising her daughter.
So don't say that.
Her first words, her first steps, 3 years. She'll be a completely different person by the time her mother gets out of prison. Will she even recognize her?
You can't let these thoughts consume you.
I know, George, but it's true. Julia is in prison, sleeping in a cot in a windowless room. I'm spending every day and night trying to raise our daughter without her. I just don't think I can do it alone.
Sir, you don't have to. No matter what happens, one thing I can promise you. You won't be alone.
Thank you, George.
Is that the alderman's fundraiser?
I believe so. He has some nerve.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Helping people has always been my mission, especially when it comes to the people of Toronto. We need state-of-the-art facilities where the average man can get top-of-the-line health care. That is why I want to raise money to open a new hospital for the less fortunate.
Oh, that's rich.
Now, this here is my friend David. He was born with a bad leg and is one of the many people who will be helped by our new endeavor. Now, he's going to be coming around with a collection tin. If you see him, give him a few dollars. Let's get to our donation goals. Every penny counts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ah, you made it out so
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I hope you oh, thank you. Bye. Ah, thank you for making a donation. Donation, chaps?
It is a good call, sir. Yeah, every penny counts, he just said.
Thanks. Detective Murdoch, thank you for coming. Despite what has happened, we must rise above and support one another.
I'm not here for niceties, Alderman. I have a few more questions.
Again, Detective. If I didn't know any better, I'd think you had it in for me.
Did you receive a telephone call from your wife the night before her death?
No, I didn't. Is that all? Good day, Detective.
I know what you did, Prescott. And I won't rest until I prove it.
Whatever could you mean?
Have you spoke to Julia? How's the spirits?
Not good, I'm afraid.
This is a nightmare. What's your next move, Murdoch?
I'm sure it was Alderman Prescott. I just can't prove it. He was the recipient of the telephone call that's mentioned in the page of the report that's now conveniently missing. But perhaps the question shouldn't be why is it missing, but how?
The inspector at Port Credit?
It was his report.
You know you have my full support and the full resources of this station house if you need anything.
Thank you, sir. There is another avenue to follow. If we're correct, the alderman had to have traveled from his home in Toronto to Port Credit between the time of the telephone call and when Abigail's body was discovered.
Someone may have seen him leave his house that day.
Perhaps he hired a carriage.
Surely an alderman would own his own carriage.
In which case, you'll have a driver.
George, Henry, see what you can find out.
Yes, sir.
I did nothing wrong. And I resent the accusation.
A file was sent to the Crown and to the defense. Both were missing the same page of your report. So the incident had to have occurred before the documents left this station house.
You're suggesting one of my men lost the page?
Or mishandled it?
Intentionally? No. My men are honest and trustworthy.
Is that so?
I work with them every day. I trust them with my life. But do you not trust your constables with yours?
You hand wrote the page, correct?
That's right.
Then who copied it?
What do you mean?
Every page of those documents was collated into two separate files. One went to the Crown, one went to the defense. Someone had to have copied the original in order for...
Oh, yes, that would be Mr. Johnson, our scrivener. That's him there, if you'll excuse me.
Mr. Johnson, Detective Murdoch, Toronto Constabulary. I have a couple of questions.
Right now, I'm kind of busy.
Are you the scrivener that handled the case report for the trial of Dr. Julia Ogden?
I am.
Are you aware that a page went missing from that report prior to trial?
No, I don't know anything about that.
Can you confidently say that all of the pages were accounted for when you received the report from Inspector McRae?
How could I possibly know?
He attests that as a fact. And yet a page was missing from the files that went to the Crown and the defense.
Things get lost all the time.
By you?
No, never.
Yet it went missing when it crossed your desk. Perhaps I should have another word with Inspector McCrae and advise him not to hire...
Don't tell the inspector.
Tell me exactly what happened.
2 days before the trial, I ran into a man in the street near my rooms. He knew about the trial, and he even knew that the file was currently in my hands.
Who was this man?
I'd never seen him before in my life. He offered me $100 to remove 2 pages. How could I pass that up?
2 pages, not just one?
1 page from the police report, 1 from the coroner's report. But there was nothing on them, nothing that seemed important.
That is not for you to determine, Mr. Johnson.
But I needed the money. Do you have any idea how much $100 is? My wife, I needed the money, sir.
Please, pull yourself together, man. Look at this photograph. Is this the man that gave you the money?
No, I don't recognize him.
Then who was it?
I told you I'd never seen him before. The man had a goatee, a rough face, and he talked awful funny.
All right. I'll need you to give a description to a sketch artist.
Of course.
That must be his driver. We'll see if he knows anything.
We need to get him on his own so we can talk to him.
Right. We have to do whatever we can to get Dr. Ogden back home. She doesn't belong in jail.
She has killed someone before.
Henry, she's innocent.
Oh, look, this is our chance.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes. How can I help you?
Condolences for the passing of Mrs. Prescott.
A nasty business, that.
We're conducting an additional investigation into her death.
Is that right? Should I get the alderman?
No, actually, we wanted to speak to you. Can you tell us anything about the day that Mrs. Prescott died? Did you take the alderman anywhere that day?
No. I was given the afternoon off that day.
And are you usually given the afternoon off?
No. That morning we went about our business as usual. I took him to his tailor's, then back to the house, just like every day. Usually I wait around after that, but that day the alderman went inside the house and came back out a short time later telling me to take the rest of the day off.
Hey, he goes to the tailor's every day?
Well, it's his business. He owns it. Impressively Pressed Tailors over on Sherborne.
Oh, I've been there before. They aren't very good.
Well, it does fine business. We pick up the earnings there every day and take them to the bank.
Every day?
Mr. Wright, you are the coroner who performed the postmortem on Abigail Prescott.
That's right.
And you delivered your report to this station house, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Did you happen to keep a copy of your report for your record?
No, I assumed I would receive it back after the trial.
Could you have a look at the report and tell me if there's anything missing?
Yes, there is a page missing.
Oh. Any idea what that page contained?
Of course, it was the page that detailed the bruising across the victim's body.
Bruising? What bruising?
Extensive. Arms, back, torso.
Any sense of what may have caused them?
Likely from repeated blows, but none of this had anything to do with her death. These were minor contusions, painful, but not serious.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
If I may, did you happen to notice if any of the bruises were more recent than others?
Yes, there was one on her arm.
Her broken arm?
No, her other arm. It was about a few inches wide, quite fresh.
So someone grabbed her? Stole the pages to hide the fact that they'd injured her in an altercation?
Or it's an indication of something else altogether.
What are you thinking?
It's your professional opinion that Abigail Prescott consumed 100 drams of laudanum.
Correct.
Dr. Ogden maintains that she instructed Abigail Prescott to consume 1 vial containing only 16 drams of laudanum. What if the extra laudanum wasn't consumed? What if it was injected?
A rough injection leaving a bruise?
It's possible.
Did you happen to find any injection marks?
No, but I can't say I was looking for one.
Well, if the overdose of laudanum was injected, then it wasn't Mrs. Ogden who killed Mrs. Prescott.
A revelation like this would immediately discount the Crown's case.
It's too late now. She's in the ground.
We'll have to get her out.
So the alderman was left to his own devices the rest of the day. You know, he could have driven himself down to Port Credit if that was the case.
Should we report back to the inspector then?
It's not worth much if nobody saw him there. I still think it's strange that they make a visit to the tailors every day.
Oh, it's this place right here. I tell you, it's the worst tailors I've ever been to. I had to go back 3 times, and I still don't have my pants. I'd abandon them if they weren't Ruthie's favorite pair.
It's hardly bustling. How much revenue can they be making?
Just enough to keep the doors open, I would guess.
Yet they make so much that they have to make a deposit at the bank every day?
I'm surprised they make enough to make a deposit every year.
Higgins, that chap, that's the downtrodden man I saw at the fundraiser earlier.
He doesn't look downtrodden at all.
Scoundrel, he must be a confidence man.
The scrivener who transcribes the documents for trial was paid to remove 2 pages.
Paid by whom?
Apparently not the alderman. We questioned the scrivener, and he gave us a description of the culprit. Inspector McCrae is putting these up all over town. This is the man.
I know that man.
What?
My dear Bianca is terribly ill. 5 minutes of your time. Please.
I was on the way to buy the tickets from the train station, and he asked if I wanted a ride. Then he said he needed a doctor.
Someone was ill?
No, not someone. It was his goat, but there's nothing I could do. By the time I got back to the hotel, Abigail was dead.
Julia, did this man speak in an unusual manner?
Yes, he had an accent.
Well, then this is him. He purposely delayed your return back to the hotel so that someone would have time to murder Abigail Prescott and frame you. This is the man that bribed the scrivener and delayed Julia on her way back to the hotel.
Unlikely to be a coincidence.
I have constables canvassing the area and putting up these posters. Hopefully someone will have seen something.
I need to speak to Detective Murdoch.
Who's this then?
Oh, that is Mrs. Lipnow. She owns the hotel in Port Credit. Ma'am, may I be of assistance?
You need to pay for this phone call.
This is your telephone bill. Why should I?
Your wife booked a room at my hotel and incurred this exorbitant charge. But now she is in jail. It is only fair that the responsibility of the debt fall to her husband.
She has a point, Murdoch.
This must be Abigail Prescott's telephone call.
Yes, God rest her soul. But where could she have been calling to incur a charge of $1.19? $1.19? I almost keeled over when I saw it. I never should have had that infernal thing installed in the first place.
I will take care of this, Mrs. Lipnow. Leave it with me.
Why, thank you, Detective.
You think that's his office?
Could be. An accountant masquerading as a person in need to drum up donations for the alderman's fundraiser.
Can't believe you let that man trick you into giving him money.
See, he was convincing, Henry, very convincing. I never should have told you that.
I still don't see how the tailor shop is connected.
Unless it's not a tailor shop at all.
Oh, I assure you there was a tailor in there. An old man with a dreadful shake in his hands.
That's not what I mean, Henry. What would an accountant be doing with a failing business right after drumming up money for charity?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Pretending that same business earned that same money so no one would notice you and the alderman were stealing from the people of Toronto.
So the tailor shop is just a front then. Oh, look, there he is again.
Let's have a word.
What have you got?
Well, sir, I think I may be able to determine the area that Abigail called with the information in this telephone bill.
How do you figure that?
All I have to do is cross-reference the cost of the call with the applicable long-distance rates.
Won't that take forever?
Well, no, sir. $1.19 is only divisible by two numbers, 7 and 17.
And 1 and 119.
Well, yes, but we could probably discount those because there are no regions that cost $1.19 per minute, and we know she wasn't on the telephone for 119 minutes.
Go on.
So she either made a 7-minute phone call at a rate of 17 cents per minute or a 17-minute call at a rate...
7 cents a minute?
Precisely, which drastically reduces the possibilities. Here, 17 cents per minute, Paris, Ontario.
The alderman doesn't live there.
No, but Abigail's mother does.
Excuse me, sir.
You know the alderman, do you not?
Doesn't everybody?
We saw you at his tailor shop earlier.
Why on earth were you spying on me at a tailor shop?
Well, what were you doing there?
More to the point, were you pretending to be a homeless man earlier at the alderman's fundraiser?
How ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous, sir. You were drumming up donations, which I think you're now scheming to hide his profits from his tailor shop.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think you owe my friend here 25 cents, and you owe me a pair of pants.
What?
Sir, why don't you just tell us, Mr. Potter, if that is indeed your name? How is the alderman involved in all this?
There.
I don't know why you and your lot continue to pour salt in my wound. Is it not bad enough that your wife caused my daughter's death?
Mrs. Delafonte, I'm terribly sorry to ask any more of you, but I assure you it is important. I'll keep it short. Did your daughter Abigail telephone you the night before her death?
Yes.
She did? What did she say?
Abigail telephoned me to tell me that she had absconded with that woman, your wife.
Why did she feel the need to tell you this?
She was scared, I suppose.
Of?
What might become of her, of course. A woman can't simply leave her husband. There are consequences for such things, which is precisely what I told her.
You told her to go back?
Of course.
Her husband had broken her arm.
No marriage is a simple affair, Detective.
And did she agree to return to Toronto?
No. She was resolved. Come what may. Those are the last words she said to me.
So you don't believe that she telephoned Mr. Prescott after her conversation with you?
I do not. That is why I telephoned him.
You? You telephoned Mr. Prescott that night?
I did.
And you told him where she was?
Yes. It's only right for a husband to know of his wife's whereabouts.
Mrs. Delafonte, I'm very sorry to put you through anything further, but I will need you to attest to this call.
Why?
I need to present this as evidence to the judge. Alderman Prescott has claimed repeatedly that he did not know his wife's whereabouts that night. He lied. Lied to the judge, to the jury, to the investigators. Investigators who believe that someone has destroyed evidence in this case.
No, he couldn't have. What have I done?
So the alderman knew where she was, meaning that he likely went down there to kill her.
At the very least, I can now prove to the judge that he lied under oath.
What now?
Well, I've telephoned Effie Crabtree. We'll get the mother's statement and prepare our case for an appeal.
Inspector Brackenreed? Murdoch, it's for you.
Detective Murdoch.
Something bad is about to happen to your wife.
What?
Next time it's going to be worse. Drop the case.
Who is this? Hello?
Hey, new girl.
Excuse me?
Did you steal my cigarettes?
No, I don't smoke.
I said, give me back my cigarettes. It was her. She attacked me.
She's lying. She tried to kill me.
Well, it doesn't matter. You're both going to the hall. Go ahead.
What do you mean I can't speak with her? Where is she?
What did they say?
Only that she isn't in her cell. I have to get down there.
Go!
My lord, there has clearly been outside interference in this case. Just yesterday, I learned that the police scrivener removed 2 pages of the case file after being bribed.
Pages that would make no difference to the outcome of this case.
What my learned friend is failing to mention is that there was something about these pages which somebody didn't want the court to know.
What were on those pages?
The first page detailed a phone call which the deceased made the night before her death to her mother, who in turn telephoned her husband, Alderman Prescott, to retrieve her.
Relevance, my lord.
A third party at the murder scene completely changes this case and casts a shadow on the theory which my learned friend here laid out at trial. But more importantly, Mr. Prescott lied. He claimed to have no knowledge of his wife's whereabouts at the time of her murder, when in fact, he knew precisely where she was.
And the second page?
The second page detailed bruising all over the deceased's body.
My lord, it seems my friend here has forgotten that the victim died from an overdose of laudanum, not bangs and bruises.
Bruises which may well have been covering an injection mark from a syringe which could have been administered by a third party, namely Alderman Prescott.
My lord, these are slanderous allegations. Are we now prematurely convicting an innocent man without the benefit of trial? I was under the impression that one had to be convicted by a court of law before being deemed guilty.
I am simply articulating a version of events which fits more cleanly with the facts as we now know them. Regardless, these facts cast grave doubt on the conviction of Dr. Ogden in this case.
I acknowledge there are discrepancies of some interest, but they do not appear to be significant enough to vacate a conviction, Mrs. Crabtree.
Not yet, but they do demand that we re-examine the crucial evidence in this case, the method of death.
She died of laudanum. That is not a question.
Not the cause, the method. Which is why I humbly request that the court order the exhumation of the body of Abigail Prescott.
To what end?
If one of the bruises on her body was covering up an injection mark which was otherwise unaccounted for, then we can assume that the fatal dose was administered by syringe. In which case, the Crown's allegations against Dr. Ogden no longer hold.
My lord, disturbing a corpse is not a simple thing. It is improper and disrespectful to defile a resting place on a fanciful whim.
An exhumation would require permission from the family of the deceased.
My lord, Alderman Prescott will not provide such permission. If we ask, and he denies, can we put this whole matter to rest?
It has been proven Mr. Prescott lied in this court. We cannot let this decision lie in his hands.
As it so happens, the alderman is not the deceased's only family. Mrs. Crabtree, if you can obtain permission from Mrs. Prescott's mother, I will approve the exhumation.
I want to see Julia Ogden immediately.
Detective Murdoch. Thank you. Your wife is fine.
Where is she?
She was in an altercation with another inmate and received a laceration on her forearm.
What?
But she is otherwise in fine health.
Take me to her immediately.
I cannot. She's had to spend the night in the hole, just like any other inmate would. We take these sorts of altercations very seriously.
Has her wound been treated?
Yes. The wound was cleaned and bandaged. Our nurses are well trained.
Mr. Warden, I received a telephone call threatening Julia's life. We need to put a guard on her at all times. More than one, if possible. I have no way of knowing who is making these threats.
Detective, you sound paranoid.
I received this telephone call at the station house.
I'll see to it that she receives additional supervision for the time being.
Thank you.
Sounds like a smoker's cough. No wonder you wanted your cigarettes back so badly.
Keep provoking me, see what happens, sweetie.
You know, I don't believe your cigarettes were ever missing. It was just an excuse to attack me.
Oops.
Did someone put you up to it?
I wouldn't have pegged you for the type of lady with a long list of enemies. But here we are.
Who was it?
Wouldn't you like to know?
I don't blame you.
I don't care one way or the other.
I know what it's like to be a woman in a vulnerable position, being manipulated by people with bad intentions.
That sounds like a long and fancy way to say you pity me, huh? I hate pity.
That's not it. Whoever hired you is just using you to do their dirty work while you take the fall. You could have been hurt. Or you could have killed me and ended up with a lifetime sentence. People like that don't deserve to be protected.
$50.
I beg your pardon?
That's my price. $50 and I'll give you the name.
Oh, Murdoch. Mrs. Prescott's exhumation has been approved. The mother agreed to it. It will commence first thing tomorrow morning.
That is good news. Who will perform the examination?
The original coroner, but overseen by Miss Hart. The judge has agreed to send the body to our morgue.
Oh? Why is that?
Apparently, every man and his dog wants to attend. We're the only ones with the space for it.
I see. I would also like to attend.
Good luck getting the judge to approve that. Look, don't worry. I'll make sure everything goes off all right.
If we can find that syringe, Mark, this will all be over.
And if we don't find it?
We have to exonerate Julia now. She was attacked in prison. Her life's in danger.
So they're stealing from charitable citizens?
That's what we suspect, sir.
That behaviour's lower than a snake's belly.
But this chap even pretended to have a bum leg to garner donations out of sympathy. An absolute disgrace.
Where is he now?
He got away, sir. He was actually surprisingly fast on his feet.
But this tailor shop is the centre of it. That's where they're taking all the money.
It seems so.
Take a few of the lads and ransack the place.
Gladly.
Well, sir, do we need to speak to a judge first?
Look, we know they're as guilty as sin. Better to beg forgiveness than ask permission is what I always say.
Sir? What of the help in there! Higgins, Astro, rats! Mr. Potter! Are you all right?
I'm alive, if that's what you're asking.
Do you know who that man was?
I don't know.
He got away. The lads are still after him. Did you recognize him? No. From the police sketch. That's the alderman's henchman.
He was sent by Mr. Prescott?
I very much admire your work, Miss Hart.
Oh, thank you.
I've read about you in the papers. You're quite the inspiration for those of us entering the field.
Was that so?
Everyone was all abuzz after those witch killings you solved last year.
Oh.
Ergot poisoning. Imagine that.
Actually, the victim died of anaphylaxis, but I appreciate the sentiment. Shall we begin?
Of course.
Okay. Case 583, the exhumation of Abigail Prescott.
She hasn't been in the ground for so long.
It seems the cold conditions have helped. Mr. Wright and I will now examine the skin for puncture or injection marks.
They didn't find anything.
Nothing?
There were no puncture wounds or syringe marks present anywhere on her body. We were wrong. I'm sorry.
Detective William Murdoch.
William, I found out who sent that inmate to try and kill me.
You did?
Who?
His name is Gunnar Bjornsson. His description matches that of the farmer who bribed the scrivener. Oh, and I need you to send $50 to an address for me. Getting that name wasn't cheap.
It may not make any difference. The exhumation was a failure. It yielded nothing.
What does that mean?
Without the syringe mark or the missing pages, anything this Bjornsson has done becomes circumstantial.
Inconsequential.
Oh.
I'm so sorry, Julia.
I believe this is a Well, we will have to wait for the report.
What are you doing?
It's a small mark on her lip.
Where?
Here. It just makes me think, if not a syringe mark, perhaps someone forced the victim's mouth open in some way.
Giving her laudanum against her will?
Precisely.
I would have noticed a chipped tooth or pierced lip. Beyond that, I don't see how such a thing could ever be established.
Did you examine the inside of her mouth?
Yes, but I admit, not with a specific mind to finding such indicators.
You sure this man works for Prescott?
Absolutely.
Man's trying to kill me. After everything I've done for him.
What exactly have you done for him?
I'm not telling you a thing.
Sir, as you can see, constables are collecting every scrap of paperwork in this place, and others will be searching your accounting office.
And what of it?
If you've been stealing from charity, we'll find out whether you help us or not.
Why are you protecting someone who wants you dead?
If I help you convict him, can you keep me out of jail?
That may be something we can arrange.
I've been in charge of the alderman's accounts for over a decade. And he has been indeed stealing money.
From the hospital charity?
Among others. We run the donations through the tailor shop so that they appear as legitimate earnings when we deposit them. And then I doctor the financials to ensure it.
Stealing from a hospital is particularly rotten.
The hospital is just the tip of the iceberg.
Is everything all right?
Just having a quick look at one more thing.
Now, hold on. The purpose of this exhumation was to search for a syringe mark.
It will just take one moment.
This examination was not explicitly requested.
What is that?
Oh, my.
Gunnar Bjornsson. Criminal threats, assault, attempted murder, and there's more.
Oh?
The last time he was in jail, he was bailed out by none other than Alderman Prescott.
That's a direct connection.
We have his last known address. The lads and I will bring him in. And Crabtree and Higgins have managed to get the accountants a spill. The alderman's going down one way or another.
The only problem is none of this exonerates Julia. McNabb?
We have word from the morgue, sirs.
Gunnar Bjornsson.
The one and only.
You're under arrest for bribery, interference with a police investigation, and attempted murder.
Can I finish my stew first?
Don't get smart. Get him out of here!
What a waste.
Thank you for your patience. We have completed our examination of the exhumed body of Abigail Prescott. There were no previously undiscovered markings on the skin.
However, we were able to find an anomaly that was not discovered in the original postmortem.
Yes, a foreign object in the deceased's mouth, stuck in the back of her esophagus.
The object seems to have moved closer to the top of the throat due to the body's decomposition.
Hence why it wasn't previously found, despite Mr. Wright's good work. A brass button.
A button?
Why would she have swallowed a button?
No, I didn't. Is that all? Good day, Detective.
It was him.
I have already signed the petition and expect to have a plan in place as early as next week. Please excuse me for a moment. Detective Murdoch, of course. To what do I owe the pleasure?
Oh, believe me, Alderman, the pleasure is all mine.
Is that so? Dear, I thought you didn't like me.
I don't.
What are you doing? That is quite enough of this harassment, Detective.
Alderman Prescott, you are under arrest for the murder of your wife, Abigail Prescott.
Every piece of evidence detailing the alderman's misdeeds.
It's time enough to send him away for years to come.
Evidence of his financial crimes and the button that places him at the scene of the murder. Mrs. Prescott was sending us a message.
You think she swallowed it on purpose, sir?
In her final moments, yes.
Bringing him to justice from beyond the grave.
In addition to all of that, this Bjornsson fella turned on the alderman faster than a lion's lunch. He admitted to distracting Dr. Ogden while the alderman murdered his wife.
I'd be willing to wager that that is finally the end of Alderman Prescott. There is no doubt of your innocence now.
I'm so relieved, William. Effie said the Crown will ask the judge to overturn the verdict in the morning. I'll be released by noon.
That's wonderful. I can hardly stand the thought of you spending one more night here.
Me neither. Although the warden has extended an olive branch in light of my wrongful imprisonment, he's invited me to a family dinner.
Oh?